Atlantic mummies are American or Atlantis. Spain has notable examples of mummified remains, particularly the Guanche mummies from the Canary Islands. These mummies, dating back to the pre-Hispanic era, that is before Spanish colonization in the 15th century, were created using unique embalming techniques. Also characteristic for South American mummifications, with the oldest mummies in the world, of 9,000 years old, being found in Chile. DNA sequencing of Guanche mummies. Previous studies on the Guanches relied on single genetic markers, such as mtDNA and y-DNA. Recently, researchers generated the genome-wide sequence data as well as mtDNA from 11 archaeological Guanche individuals originating from Gran Canaria and Tenerife. DNA confirms North African origin of Guanches. The title of the study we are referencing is Ancient DNA Study Confirms North African Origin of Guanches. The Guanche mummies analyzed by the research team carried mtDNA L3, amongst several others mtDNA groups that are recognized as common across West Eurasia and North Africa. Mitochondrial Eve mummies. We ask you to take special note of mtDNA L3, which is dominant in sub-Saharan Africa, and consequently the main component of mitochondrial Eve. The Guanche mummies Y-DNA-E, with the EM183 haplotype to be specific, is common across modern North Africans, and particularly common in Berber-speaking populations of North Africa. However, for us of origin of existence, as well as for some other researchers, the Y-DNA haplogroup DE, including its descendants, like also E, are not of African origin. Mummies and North Africans are out of Americans. For us of origin of existence, the Y-DNA haplogroup DE, including its descendants, like also Y-DNA-E, is out of American from origin, similar to what is provingly the case with Y-DNA-R, but differently than in the case of Y-DNA-R1b also found amongst the mummies as well as amongst the Berbers and other North Africans. These Y-DNA-E descendants could have had its more immediate root and cradle somewhere along the Austronesian expansion, possibly in Australia, which became sole during Ice Ages, India and/or Mesopotamia. Interestingly, the Berber-speaking populations of North Africa also carry Y-DNA R1b. Y-DNA R1b has its only candidate root and cradle R1 in the Americas. Autosomal genetic data from these populations conclusively demonstrate that the Guanches were more closely related to modern North Africans of Berber ancestry than to any other population that was included for comparisons. This suggests that modern North Africans of Berber ancestry are in fact American. Root and cradle of Y-DNA R1b is American. We of origin for existence point out in our videos that the only candidate root and cradle of Y-DNA R1b only can be found in the Americas. As said, this suggests that modern North Africans of Berber ancestry are in fact out of Americans, just as modern Europeans and modern Western Eurasians are out of Americans. Moroccan 310,000-year-old modern humans. The same was the case for the archaics of roughly 310,000 years ago whose fossils were found exclusively in mines in Morocco. Initially, these fossils were recognized as Neanderthals, or at least strongest related to Neanderthals, because of clear archaic traits most similar to Neanderthals they presented. We of origin for existence claim them to be a variant of Neanderthals, since this corresponds best with the place of finding. These fossils being reclassified as modern humans looks more like convenience for, or self-interest of consensus, than any scientific conclusion, especially since this reclassification is not in line with a. consensus itself, that consistently claims that modern humans originated from sub-Saharan Africa because sub-Saharan Africans do not carry Neanderthal DNA and do not present Neanderthal-like traits, and not from North Africa, nor the Maghreb region. B. Their Neanderthal morphology and/or skeletal traits. C. Their fossils were found in mines, which is where Neanderthal and Denisovan fossils, and not modern humans fossils, are typically found. The Neanderthal and/or Denisovan traits of the fossils have clear roots in the Americas. See the whole genome haplotype tree that demonstrates its roots in the Americas, this since the first line is in the Americas. Also their places and circumstances of finding, as well as the coastal presence of the haplogroups, and also the general absence of them across Africa, suggest arrival through the Atlantic gyres and currents from the Americas, and not or at least not directly from sub-Saharan Africa. Also interestingly, more ample comparisons. 3 population tests, David Reich, 2021, involving all groups of peoples of the whole world, proof that the most massive hit of similarity is between Native Americans and certain Northern Europeans, that in fact clearly respond to the typical Atlantic Facade countries, which are systematically supposed to be hunter-gatherers, like for instance France. Please keep in mind that there was similarity between the mummies, as well as the Berbers etc. with Europeans, and in fact most of all with modern Europeans from the Atlantic Facade countries. The researchers of the study in focus informed that one Guanche individual carried a greater proportion of hunter-gatherer-like ancestry than the other individuals, and they interpreted this as possibly suggesting low-level gene flow from a European source that predates the European conquest. All Europeans that predate the European conquest, but after the proven population turnover events that went on until at least 4,500 years ago, depend on their only root and cradle candidates in the Americas. We of origin for existence suppose that the researchers refer to the individual that carried Y-DNA R1b, which consensus considers to be of hunter-gatherers as well as European. The Neolithic expansion the researchers refer to, and claim to be the source, of around 7,000 years ago, is in the height of the proven arriving of Y-DNA R1b and its descendants, from the root and cradle candidates which only can be found in the Americas. Further, the researchers claim a. That this type of genetic ancestry was introduced to Europe from Anatolia with migrating farmers during the Neolithic expansion around 7,000 years ago. b. That other North African populations have varying proportions of this ancestry. c. That their analyses show that modern inhabitants of Gran Canaria inherited circa 16 to 31% of their genomic ancestry from the Guanches. The same is said so by the co-author of the study Dr. Torsten Gunther, from Uppsala University.